Thank you so much. And welcome and thank you for being here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Beth, for having us on. And your nose was growing during that opening
No,
comments there,
hardly.
because I am a really nice guy, but Shantae's pretty mean most of the time. So,
Pretty much.
but no, I thank you everybody for joining us today. Again, I'm Jeff Adney with Terwisscha Construction. You may or may not have seen me around the showroom floors, exhibiting at the various pet care conferences. And with me is Shantae. Shantae recently joined Terwisscha Construction here, in November of last year.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just tell a little bit back.
Yep.
I owned and operated a facility in Long Beach, California for 10 years. And then after that, I did some coaching for the dog gurus. And now I'm here with Jeff. Sidekick.
And this sweet little pup in the front seat of my car is my buddy. That is Mr. Mister. So it shows my age. If everybody knows the band Mr. Mister. I won't sing their famous songs, but that's my boy on his way to obedience school. So why do we need great flooring? So quick story about myself. I've been in the epoxy coatings business, resinous coatings business now for over 25 years. And this is the first project that we ever did, a small animal hospital close to where I live. We're just getting into the epoxy coatings business. Worked all weekend, got the flooring done for the facility, came back the next day, take some pictures, and here's this little Great Dane puppy already going to the bathroom on the brand new floor. So that explains why we need great flooring, because they just get abused. And so we kind of took this picture and it became kind of our postcard. So this was pre-email, pre-internet, and we would send this postcard around to the local veterinarians and got regional and said, hey, do you need flooring? And that was kind of our start into the industry. So kind of fun story. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about different types of floors that we see out there, the pros and cons of those. Of course, the conditions and timings, that's paramount with successful flooring. We're going to talk about coving, kind of coming up the walls, as well as other considerations as far as textures and things like that. And then we're going to start off with what I call the D.R.E.A.M approach to defining the right floor. So what is the D.R.E.A.M approach? Really, it's for durability, return on investment, environmentally friendly floors, aesthetics, and maintenance, or minimal maintenance more than anything. So durability, defined as ability to exist for a long time without significant deterioration, or capable of withstanding wear, tear, and decay. Really, what are we talking about for boarding and daycare and even veterinary hospitals is it's got to withstand the cleaning chemicals, whether you're using hydrogen peroxides, bleach, disinfectants, detergents, quad ammonias, got to be able to hold up to that. Got to hold up to the animal waste that's happening, the abuse, the dog's nails, the scratching, the scraping, and the high volume and foot traffic. So when we're discussing the various floors that I'm going to get into later, this is just one of the things that you should be considering is like, how is it going to last? And not only right now, but long term. Secondly is return on investment. So giving you some money, how much the ROI is, how much profit or cost savings is realized as a result of that. So what you're thinking about there is, what's my upfront cost? How much is it going to cost me? What are the maintenance requirements or costs associated with it? So many times the lower cost floors have a higher maintenance cost on it. And within 6 months or a year of maintaining that lower cost floor, you've already could have paid for a more expensive floor that doesn't require that ongoing maintenance. How long will it take you to recoup those higher costs? And lastly is the renewability of it. What happens when it comes time to redo that floor? Do I have to tear it out? Do I have to, or can I go right over top? So return on investment is a huge thing that we need to consider as we go through this. Next is environmentally friendly. Again, we're going to talk about the renewability of it, the sustainability. How's it manufactured? Is it recyclable materials? What kind of raw materials are being used? What's it take to actually produce that? Am I shipping it from overseas, or is it produced right here in the United States? What kind of maintenance goes into that? Think about the electricity required to strip, wax, and rebuff like your typical vinyl floors, things like that. Are you looking at VOC products? Especially when you get out west, California, Colorado, places like that. VOC requirements are much more stringent, and having no solvents produced, whether it's the adhesives for the vinyl products or the linoleums, or zero solvents in some of the epoxy coatings. And then lastly, we want to think about the manufacturing process that goes into producing that product. Aesthetics, the pleasant, positive, or artful appearance of a person or thing. Things I tell everybody when it comes to flooring is, we'll have our exhibits at trade shows and people are looking at the floors and we've got some awesome colors and they've got this sample in their hand and it's like 12 inches away from their eyes. When it comes to flooring in a facility, you're standing 5 or 6 feet above it and you're looking down and really it's not that much, right? So I tell everybody it needs to be clean, sharp, and professional, but let's not be sterile. We're not going into a hospital. It should be attractive, but not the focal point. Things are going to change down the road. A lot of times we do these logos. People want it centered as they walk into the entrance of their lobby. They've got this cool logo there, and then next thing you know, they're putting a walk-off mat or a dry-off mat right over top of it. So think in big terms as far as like, hey, I just want this flooring to be durable, functional, attractive, but not over the top. Not to say that you can't, but many times they get covered up. And then also inviting. First thing that dog's going to do most likely is going to come in, he's going to go to the bathroom on the floor. So if it's a high-end floor and they're ruining it right off the bat or something happens, it makes the staff or the customers uncomfortable with what they're doing. And then lastly is maintenance, defined as the upkeep of property or equipment. So what are the things you should consider here? Number one is what are the recommended maintenance requirements? Many of the floors today, especially the vinyls, VCTs, or some of the linoleums, they're going to require ongoing maintenance. And what is that maintenance process? And what does that maintenance process do to your overall business? Are you shutting things down? Do you have to bring in an outside service? What happens if you don't maintain it? How quickly will that product deteriorate? So all those things kind of go into weighing what flooring may or may not work best for you. Again, I'm on the epoxy coatings business. I'm biased. I think resinous-based coatings are probably the most beneficial, but it's not the end-all be-all for all areas. So it's kind of the D.R.E.A.M approach. I know I ran through that quickly, but so before I move forward, Beth, were there any initial questions that popped up for people that wanted me to cover?
There weren't, but actually I had a question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
What is VOC?
Volatile organic compounds. So it's what gets emitted into the environment once it goes through the curing process.
So is that similar to like one of the things that as a manufacturer we've had to become very vigilant about is the Prop 65 law? Is it kind of in the same realm of that?
Same realm. So we all want to make sure that our kids, grandkids are going to be here, and their kids, grandkids are going to be here, and all those types of things. So it's stopping the emissions of these things that can affect the ozone is really what I'm talking about with the VOCs. So most of, like, again, when you go to California, most of their products, they are going to have zero solvents whatsoever part of it. Even if you try to buy like xylene or products similar to that many painters use to clean up brushes, they don't have, they've got to find solvent-free type xylenes or equal type products. Okay.
I have a lot more questions about that, but if that's going to derail us, then I don't need to get into it.
No worries. All right. So other things that you should think about when looking at flooring is, the comfort and textures of it. So epoxies, resinous-based coatings, porcelain tiles are very hard and very durable, but that also means they're very hard and durable on not only your staff, your clients, but also the dogs that are running up and down. So the other consideration is comfort, resilient. Many times comfort means not necessarily as durable. So trying to figure those two things out or balance the two of those out. Noise control is going to be another one. So kennels, many times I have multiple hard surfaces, whether it's a drywall lid, CMU or block walls, and then a hard concrete surface with either tile or epoxy on it. Sound waves are just going to bounce around. So if we can't put some sort of way to stop sound waves from bouncing around, maybe we look at a flooring as one of those options to help control noise. Also, what about the wet areas? Do we have a constant wet area that maybe has to have a little more slip resistance to it? How do we deal with that? Balancing cleanability with slip resistance has always been a challenge, especially in this industry. Number one, because both veterinarians as well as boarding and daycare facility owners, they're always cleaning, and we always have dogs running around. So making sure we have something that's not going to be aggressive or abusive on the dog's paws is critical, but also we got to be able to run a mop over it relatively quickly without worrying about it ripping to shreds. So those are other considerations we need to think about. So types of things I'm going to jump into today. I'm going to make sure I got them all here. So sealed concrete, polished concrete, stained LVT, which is luxury vinyl tile, porcelain tile, and then of course resinous. And resinous like kind of is one big family there.
We did have one question
Yeah,
about noise control.
yeah.
Is there a specific type of flooring that's best for noise control? Is that something you'll get into further down?
It is something we will definitely get into. And noise is very, very difficult, as most of us know in this industry. There are ways, there are different types of rubber floors, anything that is got a little more cushion to it to help absorb those sound waves is one of them. And there are some options there that I will get into a little bit later in this presentation.
Okay.
Sealed concrete, really pretty basic. Many times it's where a lot of facilities need to start. Hey, we've got a concrete surface. We know concrete is absorbent. Dog goes to the bathroom on it. It's going to soak right in. And, now you've got this odor and this cleaning issue and those types of things. But sometimes all we can do is put a sealer down of some sort. It's very inexpensive. It will eliminate dusting. What it won't do is address any of the seams, cracks, control joints, or expansion joints that are in the concrete, meaning all you're doing is spraying the sealer down over the concrete surface, and it's more of a repellent. But control joints is what is cut into the concrete once it's poured to help when the concrete cures, allows it to crack, and hopefully those control joints. Expansion joints are when two separate pores are created, and these slabs need to be moved independently. And then cracks is just what's going to happen to concrete. A sealer is not going to address any of those things, so it's still open. So now you're going to need to look at like some sort of flexible joint filler or some other type of product to fill those to keep that concrete from being absorbent. Sealed concrete, for the most part, is not long-term chemical resistant. So most of the chemicals that we're dealing with are going to break down over time. And so it's just something that's going to need to be resealed on an ongoing basis. What that is depends on the type of sealer you put down. If you're looking at sealed concrete, my recommendation would be a higher solids, lower solvent-based sealer. That way you have more wear protection on the top of the concrete. Again, higher solids, lower solvent is the better route to go. When it comes time to reseal it, you're still going to need to clean it, sand it, and then apply another layer. But the lower solvents means that the solvent odor is going to get out of the facility that much quicker. If you've got, and that's if you need to put the sealer in these areas. Mainly where we see it when we're specifying projects is we're going to see it in the storage areas, maybe your food prep areas, your mechanical rooms, and potentially your closet. The other question that I'm asked many times is how do I know when my concrete needs to be resealed? Picture I have there, the one in the upper right, you can see where it's starting to stain. That means that sealer is worn down, and as dirt starts getting in there, it's starting to hold into place. The bottom picture is kind of showing where we don't have that. So good way to know, like if you're starting to see a lot of staining, that means that sealer's probably worn down. The other way is if water's no longer beating up and it's more absorbing into it, means that sealer has broken down. Polished concrete, next level up. We've all seen polished concrete at the big box stores, Home Depot, Walmart, Menards, Costco. Polished concrete is pretty much everywhere there. Pretty inexpensive way to go. The difference is for boarding and daycare facilities, you need to polish at a level higher than what those stores do, because what we're trying to do by polishing concrete is much like, I'm going to show my age here, but when I was growing up, my dad had this rock tumbling thing where you put in stones and you change the grits of the sand in there to polish these raw rocks into more of a gem type thing. We're doing the same thing with polished concrete. We're trying to put various grits of sandpaper or diamonds on this concrete and polish it to a closed, non-porous surface. What the big box stores are doing behind the scenes is they are constantly waxing those floors. They've got the big machines that can come over it, so they don't have to polish at a higher grade than what we need to do in the boarding and daycare world. What I like about it, it works well with what's in place, can be inexpensive. The detriment, just like sealed concrete, you've got seams, cracks, control joints, and expansions that are not addressed. At some point, you're going to need to reseal it. It will have an unpredictable finish. So if you're a little OCD and you want everything to look the same, if you've got two different pours, that concrete probably is not going to match up. It is a cold, hard finish. And surprisingly, there are a ton of hazards that are created through the process of grinding concrete because of what we're doing is we're removing a lot of that concrete dust that's on the surface of it. Usually where I see this is going to be if you're moving into a leasehold space, you know, you're only going to be there for 5 years. You don't want to put the money in for, you know, maybe an epoxy floor or porcelain tile. This could be a good way to go. Just realize you're going to spend, you know, $400 or $500 every 6 months to seal it. Not a bad option. And then sometimes we just see it in lobbies, just wide open areas where we're not necessarily housing dogs. Any other questions so far, Beth? Are we still good? Is everybody awake?
I think we're all awake.
Awesome.
You're just explaining everything so nicely. No questions.
Appreciate it. Next, stained concrete. Really, really love the look of stained concrete. Shantae lives down there in Austin, Texas. Stained concrete is very, very prevalent down in the Texas area. Some really, really, really cool looks with stained concrete. But many times what I see happen is you get that top picture, which looks awesome, but the bottom picture where it starts peeling. And really, it's not the stain that's peeling, but it's more of the sealer or the top coat that's put over top of that stain that eventually breaks down. So what stained concrete is we're actually spraying a type of acid onto the concrete itself, and we're manipulating colors by spraying the various acids onto there. So we're changing it's a hydrochloric acid, and we're creating this throughout the surface itself. Process is we come in, we clean, we do a real light abrade, real light sand on it. We're going to clean again, vacuum it. We're going to spray this hydrochloric acid with water onto the surface itself. We're going to let that sit overnight. Then the next day, we got to come back. We got to rinse off the excess. We're going to put some baking soda into the water as well to make this pH neutral. We're going to rinse that. We're going to dry it, and then we're going to try to seal it. We have now introduced a whole slew of water into the concrete itself that if we seal that prematurely, we're going to trap that moisture into the concrete, and thus you get that sealer starting to pop there. So making sure you're working with somebody that truly understands the staining process, especially in the commercial world, the type of sealers that you're going to need for your industry versus maybe what a restaurant needs, maybe versus what just a regular retail space is. We are looking for a sealer that is not going to allow anything to penetrate into it. Those types of sealers are non-breathable. And so if we capture too much moisture, we're going to have issues with it. Again, can be incredibly expensive, aesthetically pleasing. Just like the others, seams, control joints, cracks, expansion joints, need to address those some way. It can be porous if you don't seal it properly. I say it's not really a long-term surface unless you put the right type of top coat down. And the last one is the unpredictable surface. So just like two different slabs, you're going to get two different color hues with the staining that we're trying to do. If somebody tried to write something into that concrete, most likely you're going to see whatever they wrote with that. That might not show up to you actually stain it. So there's, if somebody spilled coffee, you can clean that up, but most likely that's going to come back and see. Sometimes those visuals are really cool, and sometimes it's like, I wish they wouldn't have written that bad word into the concrete or wrote whatever in there. And I've seen that happen. So just something to think about. It is a challenge, can be overcome, but it can be an inexpensive way to spruce things up. I really like it in like the reception areas, lobby, restrooms, maybe you're toward walkways, and just keep on top of the maintenance.
You talked about not long term.
Yep.
In terms of like expectancy for flooring in general, what is not long term? Like 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah. So when I say long term, especially in that situation, it's not long term unless you continue on with the maintenance. Now, if you continue on with waxing, sealing, buffing, all those types of things, and if you're religious about it, it can be long term. But the product itself with the sealer that's on there, the way I defined it, is probably, a 3 to 5 year lifespan.
Okay.
And that's maintaining it that way. What happens is we get in, we're religious about every 3 months, we're putting a new coat of wax on it. And then next thing you know, we're bumping into the 4th of July weekend and can't do it then. And then, wow, summer's busy. And so we're going to wait till September. And then, oh, wow, we're continuing to be busy. So now we're going to wait till February. Oh boy, cash isn't coming in as much in February. So maybe we need to put this off to where we're busy again. And so that's how those things creep out from staying on top of that maintenance. But it's a great question.
It might be low upfront investment, but it's a high time, energy, and cost of investment for maintenance on those.
Yep, very much so. Yes, they can be. And so then, the other side is then can we spend enough time during the staining process, particularly in the staining process, to allow that moisture to truly come out of that concrete surface and then put down the appropriate top coat so that it's something that will require a little bit less maintenance. And so there's all those balances of trying to work through it. And I tell everybody, spend time if you're building new or you're looking to renovate, spend time talking to your general contractor and your contractor about what you're truly looking for, and then interview the flooring contractor along with them and make sure they understand what you're trying to do. Give them a list of the chemicals that you're using. Bleach is still out there, right? Bleach will tear apart a ton of floor surfaces. Make sure that they understand that, hey, if I've got a case of parva that comes in, this might be the most inexpensive but most effective way to clean that surface. They need to know that. And if we all know those factors going in, it's going to make everybody happier towards the end of the process.
And is there a way for either of those polished concretes to add some sort of non-slip surface or not because it's polished?
Yeah, that's a great question and something I skipped over. But yeah, polished is a very slippery surface when it's all done. The only way to add some sort of texture is going to be putting something into the sealer. And now we're changing the overall aesthetics of those. And so if you walk into the Walmarts, right, that first section is all those walk-off carpet tiles for the most part to allow all that snow and rain or whatever to evaporate. And then many times they have long walk-off runners before you get into the floor itself. Now, that's probably what's going to happen in a lot of receptions if that's the route we go. But now in the back of the house, besides the grooming, bathing, and maybe not even so much grooming, but the bathing area, how often are all these surfaces wet all the time or have standing water all the time? Dog goes to the bathroom, we're going to quickly clean it up. I'm going to tell you, part of your cleaning protocol should always be to make sure you're always dry mopping behind everything that you do. So now we're talking about 3x5 or 3x6 or 4x6 runs that might be polished concrete. Do we really need that extra texture in there for the dog? Because that's something that we need to look at. And it's how you run your business.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. LVT. So this came on, what, 10 years ago, I think now, the luxury vinyl tiles. A lot of us are putting it in the house now. It's a great product, very cost effective, easily maintained, aesthetically pleasing, easily replaced. So if you have something that happens, you're not shutting down big rooms. You can swap out just a couple pieces if that's what it is. Cons, it does have seams. So something can seep into there, potentially, getting into the concrete itself. So seams means it's porous. And I say it's not a long-term solution. I definitely would not be putting this in the back of the house. I think it would work very, very well for your reception lobby areas, your toured hallways, and probably get 10 to 15 years out of it before you might need to replace it. Just depends on traffic patterns. It's another one where there are different levels of it. And I would recommend you talk to your commercial flooring person that, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's where I'm going, and spend the extra $1 a square foot or whatever it is on a product that is going to withstand the dog's nails. And that's going to be some of the biggest abuse that you have there. Next is porcelain tile with epoxy grout, probably one of the most durable products on the market. It's non-porous, especially when epoxy grout is used. Minimal maintenance. There's no stripping, waxing, buffing. Medium to high return on investment, extremely durable. Downside is you've got a hard surface, very high upfront cost. Typically, you're going to be in that $15 to $20, maybe even a little bit more than that per square foot for true porcelain tile with epoxy grout. I'm not talking ceramic. I'm talking porcelain tile with epoxy grout. And if you've got an uneven surface, concrete below, the tiles themselves can crack. Again, areas toward hallways, lobby, reception, great thing to go. You'll see a little comment, and I probably skipped over on a lot of them. Almost all of these products that I've spoken about today do not have a seamless cove option. And again, when I talk about cove, it's the ability to wrap the flooring up the wall seamlessly, whether it's 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, whatever it is. So in all these, you are going to have some sort of seam at that floor to wall junction. Me being in the animal care industry as long as I have, our goal is to have a completely seamless floor to wall junction, which is what we can achieve when we hop to epoxy or resinous-based coating. When I talk about those, resinous, some people just flat out call it epoxy. Some people I say I want urethane. Some people say I want polyaspartics. Really, resinous covers that entire family. Epoxies are the workhorse out there. They used to be not as UV stable or UV resistant as they are today. It's kind of our starting point for most things. And then we typically will finish them with some sort of urethane finish. Many times I'm out there and I hear about polyaspartics. Polyaspartics are great. Many times you hear about that for garage floor renovations. The advantage to polyaspartics is the quick turnaround time. So you can, if you're in a renovation area and you need to get that surface back within a day or 2 days, many times polyaspartics are the answer. But what you still need to think about is the floor still needs to be prepped. The floor still needs to be patched. The floor still needs to have coving on it. So just because you can get in and out with those products in a day or two, and many times it's just a top coat, you should really plan for 4 or 5, maybe even more days than that for a renovation of flooring. So why do I like them? We have the seamless cove option. I can come up the walls. I can go on a multitude of surfaces. Epoxies or resinous based or non-porous require minimal to no maintenance, meaning keep it clean. We don't want you waxing it. No stripping, no buffing. So really just staying on top of keeping it clean is the biggest thing. High return on investment, extremely durable. Cons, if you call it that, it's got a mid-level upfront cost. It's going to fall right between kind of that LVT and porcelain tile. And it is very moisture intolerant or condition sensitivity. So I'm always kidded by a lot of our general contractors that I'm a prima donna. We want it 70 degrees and fluorescent lighting, right? So we want controlled environment in there. And that's really the only way for us to truly understand what we're putting down, because we're manufacturing products in the field. So the products are manufactured to be installed at 70 degrees with 40% relative humidity and relative humidity of the concrete itself at below 80%, all those things. When those things fluctuate, it changes the way the products are installed. And so therefore, if it's too cold, the products become like molasses and they're hard to spread around. And if it's too hot, the product hits and it kicks too quickly and we're not able to finish it appropriately. So having that 65 to 75 degree range with low relative humidity is really where we need to be, which means I'm at the tail end of construction. It is a hard surface when it's all said and done. We're putting a thin layer of epoxies, which are basically plastics, right over top of a hard concrete surface. Biggest thing I would tell you is make sure you have a quality installation company, and make sure they're experienced in the animal care industry. The texture for an animal care facility versus a restaurant are completely different, and the cleaning chemicals that are being used are completely different. Moving on with it, extremely versatile. We can adjust texture on demand. So we can take the same floor coating throughout the entire facility, but you want more texture in the walkways than in the kennels, than in the bathing area. Absolutely, we can adjust that on the fly. Economies of scale can be realized. So the more we do, the quote, less per square foot. Again, I discussed easily maintained. We've got seamless floor to wall junction, long-term durability. So that facility, that first picture I showed you was the first facility I did that has long since been torn down and they've built a new hospital. Well, the second one I did is a 5,000 square foot facility close to where I live. She's still on that, and that was done 25 years ago. So we are hoping that you'll get minimally 20 to 25 years life expectancy out of epoxy-based coatings. From there, you just need to clean it, sand it, and apply another top coat over top, and you can continue on with that lifespan of it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our granite flake system, which is what we do. It's really the workhorse of what we do.
We have some questions real quick, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind. There was a question just, you mentioned different textures. Is that for traction in wet and dry areas?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So these epoxies you can change that so that they have more non-slip options.
That is correct, and it's through our application process is how I like to achieve it. Meaning I'm utilizing the flake, the vinyl flake that we're broadcasting into the resin. I'm utilizing that as part of my texture to achieve what we call like this orange peel type texture. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we finish it with what we call a glass bead. So a urethane with glass bead. And we use the glass bead because it's spherical versus many of the other oxides, which are irregular shaped. The spherical is not now aggressive on the dog's pads. It's easier for them to walk on, gives us the slip resistance that we need, doesn't catch the mops.
And are there different kinds of epoxy?
There are. So epoxies is the big family. It's think of it as tissue, right? And then there's various brands of Kleenex and whoever you want to be. So what we work with, what we're going to recommend, and most of your commercial flooring contractors are going to recommend, is 100% solids. So back to the no solvents, 100% solids epoxies, which means what I put down, I know 1 gallon at 10 mils covers 160 square feet. And it's going to dry at the same thickness that I put down. When we introduce solvents, it means it's going to probably go a little bit further, and it's going to, the overall thickness, once it's cured, is going to be less than what we put down. So what's nice with the 100% solids is we can also be doing this in existing facilities. It will have a little bit of a smell, much like latex paint has a smell, but there's no solvents that can damage that can get into the airs and concern for the animals.
And is the moisture intolerance that you talked about and that, the environment specifications, is that just for installation or is that for the lifespan of that flooring?
No, that's a great question. Yes, just during the installation process itself. So what we recommend is you climatize the facility 2 weeks prior to us being there. That helps draw all the moisture out of the concrete as much as possible. Allows that to pull out, allows the concrete to kind of settle where it is. So that 2 weeks leading up to us, then the preparation begins, and then we put our products down. Once we're done, it can go through the various temperature fluctuations, you know, as long as we're not minus 20 to,
Right.
you know, 180.
But all materials will suffer
Yes.
issues from.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great questions. Just kind of run it through this. The system we talk about, approximately 330 seconds, so not all that thick. But thickness doesn't really matter here. It's really the top coat, which is your sacrificial wear coats that are going to give you the long-term durability with it. I think it's decorative and very decorative. We can do many different things with it. Millions of color possibilities through the blends of the flakes that we have. It's typically applied to concrete, but to properly installed wood substrates, we perform equally well there. And the beauty with the wood is it actually is a little more porous than concrete, so we actually have a little bit better bond to that itself. What we have to look at when we're going over wood is just getting rid of any of the flex in that floor. So many times if it's a tongue and groove 3/4 inch plywood subfloor, maybe we have to just install another layer of that over top to strengthen that floor and minimize that movement. Other ideas here, so kind of showing, you know, we can do paw prints, things like that with it. The upper one is showing our 4-inch integral cove. So here, the base cabinets were already in place. We wrapped it up the walls to give it that seamless floor-to-wall junction. It's not a 90, it's a radius, so it makes it very easy to clean and maintain. More pictures here. What I really like about this bottom picture, this project we did down in San Antonio, you can really see that orange peel type texture with it. And what we were trying to do here with the two different colors was delineate front of house to back of house, meaning customers, we don't necessarily want you going past this door opening. Had one person come back and say their dog won't walk over those two different colors. I don't know if I can give any truth to that or not, but that's what they said. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
We have another question, if that's all right. Does the concrete, if you're putting epoxy over top of existing concrete, does that need to be pre-prepped? There's somebody who has some mostly intentional cracking, and is that something that you could work with still?
Yeah, so existing concrete is what I would say 50% of our business is in as we're going into renovating existing buildings and things like that. So the process most manufacturers or installers are going to go through is getting in there and cleaning the surface. Then we're going to do a mechanical profile, meaning where there's some large upright grinders, many of them propane powered now, upright diamond grinders that are going to basically further clean the surface, but also put a profile of depth into that concrete surface, open up the porosity. So when we go with our epoxy coatings over top, it can actually soak into the concrete itself and become part of that concrete. So go through, we're going to prep the surface, we're going to edge grind as well, and then we're going to take what we call a crack chasing blade, and we're going to open up all those cracks, and then we're going to epoxy fuse those together through some of the various materials, patch those so that they're flat and smooth, much like drywall taping. Going to do very similar surface, and then we're going to build over top of that. So hopefully that answered there. So that's kind of it on the epoxy. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the other floor systems that are available. This is what we call our PulseOff floor system. I really, really like this system. We developed it here about 10 years ago. What we're doing is we're starting with a rubber mat, and we're going to glue that rubber mat down. And then we're going to apply a series of urethane coatings, poured coatings, both troweled and poured over top of the surface to give it that same monolithic seamless floor. But you have the cushion portion of it. So veterinary hospitals, we love it in the surgery and treatment areas, rehab areas, love it in puppy rooms, senior dog rooms, dog daycare areas, and one of those areas where maybe you're looking for some sound absorption. So this is just wide open. This is a daycare yard. They just wanted it grass green. So one option that we can do for you. Here's another one. It's a really, really big rectangle room, and then he just wanted to break it up. So we added all these, half circles, full circles, various color paw prints, things like that. That's doable. This is a really cool one. She's actually up in Seattle area She's 100% indoor daycare. So she needed a soft, seamless floor system to install there. She actually built in these little potty yards here, which I like. These are raised. Everything slopes to a drain, very, very soft. And then these clouds are actually additional sound absorption that she's looking for. But this was just like ocean color is what we were trying to achieve there. This one's down in I want to say Maryland, I think is where they're at. They wanted it to look like a soccer field. And so we just kind of hand taped this all out. But again, this is nice, soft cushiony, still all the attributes of our epoxy, very durable as far as long-term longevity. Probably a little bit shorter lifespan as far as when you need to reseal it. Verdict's still out, but we're guessing in that 8 to 10 years of putting another clear top coat over top just to protect everything that's underneath. But yeah, did all the soccer lines and then incorporated their logo in there. So pretty neat idea there.
Is that process proprietary to TWC?
That one is, yes.
That's
Yep.
pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Last thing I just want to quickly touch on is don't think just horizontal surfaces. We can go vertically. So the difference between what we're doing here and epoxy paint is going to be the thickness of it. So our goal is when we go up CMU walls or cement board or whatever it is that you're getting another 15, 20 years, just like our regular epoxies out of it before you need to redo anything with it. We can do solid colors like what we saw here, or we can take our same granite flake system and bring that up the walls as well. This was just a exam room in a local veterinary hospital, so we just brought that floor system up the walls. You can see here we stuck with our 4-inch cove under the base cabinets, and over here is what we did. We call it a 2-inch cant cove, so it's more of a 45-degree angle cove that just kind of transitions that floor to wall junction that much easier when we're doing that system. Another idea, this is something that we're doing more and more of, but these built-in walk bathing tubs. So this is built out of CMU and then pouring in concrete in place, coating up the walls. We have our cove running here, but completely seamless, very impervious surface. And then what's not shown here is we actually hooked up some leash hooks so that the dogs can just walk up. They're tied up here. It's just so much better than the stainless tubs and how the dogs get nervous and standing in there and just makes for a better environment. The last project we did 2 different sizes of these. So for the larger dogs and then the smaller dogs so that we always maintaining good, people can stand in there. Most people at that 5 to 6 foot range can stand in there comfortably to bathe the dogs. Chatting a little bit quickly about the 2-inch and 4-inch. So down below here is kind of what we're calling the 4-inch rolled radius cove. So this is typically in non-animal housed areas, meaning this is not in the kennel room itself. Whereas over here, you'll see this is all a solid color epoxy, but then we went with our 2-inch to transition that. 4-inch cove typically is going to be installed directly to drywall. 2-inch cove is typically going to be installed to your FRP or Acrovent or whatever your wall protection might be. Kind of hard to see here, but here the walls were tile, and then we just transitioned our 2-inch cove here. Important to note that this is done with a mixture of epoxy and sand, and we're going to hand trowel that out, and we're using a 2-inch margin trowel. So really, the distance is 2 inches from here to here is 2 inches, but it comes out onto the floor 1.5 inches and up the wall 1.5 inches. So you got to go way back to 5th grade geometry, Beth. Remember those days?
No, I don't.
I don't.
Blocked from my memory.
Yep.
Yes.
This is shelter that we did, a large animal shelter, and just kind of showing the 4-inch rolled radius up the block. We had many conversations with the directors as well as the general contractors. We thought running 4-inch was overkill. It's about 3 times more expensive than running our 2-inch, and you still have all the protection, but that's where they ended up, so we'll do what they wanted.
And was that also a close-up view of the that orange peel and the glass in there? Okay.
Yep.
Very
So,
nice.
so that's that. I could talk for hours on epoxy and resinous coatings.
Yeah, I
Oh
feel like you
yeah, I can
probably
attest
have.
to that. So
Yeah, I think your booth is always busy at these shows that we go to. There's a line of people.
Yeah.
Um,
So we are happy to help, guide, give advice, whatever for people. Flooring. I tell everybody, flooring is it's like HVAC. You want to do it right the first time because redoing it later sucks, for
yeah.
lack of better words. It's difficult to do. You're going to always be rushed, and it's like taking a band-aid and ripping it off so slowly, and it hurts, right? So trying to do it up front, but we also understand budget is a big factor of it. Like
Mhm.
especially if you're building out a brand new facility, you got to cut somewhere. These are HVAC and flooring is one of those that we always say, like, I try to stick to your guns there, you know?
Yeah, it'll be way worse trying to fix it later.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if does anybody have any questions, you can type it out in the chat. Oh, we have some. What's the cost of the softer rubber flooring versus epoxy for
Yep.
2,000 square foot area?
For how big?
2,000 square feet.
Yeah. So, on average, depending on what all we're doing and how many lineal feet of code, but if I'm talking just horizontal surfaces only, epoxies typically you can probably figure anywhere from $8 to $12 a square footish in general. The soft floor is probably going to be closer to that $24 to $28 a square foot price range. Yeah, a lot of it just depends on the true square footage. The rubber comes in rolls. The rolls cover, let's call it 504 square feet. And so if we can make sure that we don't have to buy that fifth roll based upon how everything's laying out, then there's substantial savings there. So they do fluctuate, but usually the soft floor is about 3 times more expensive than the epoxy.
Yeah, a lot of people just use it for the play areas because the dogs, they're tumbling and they're playing rough. So that's where, I think it's highly beneficial. And then having that epoxy in the lodging areas and bathing areas, things like that.
Somebody asked, for a new build with poured concrete floor, what's the best finish of concrete to put the epoxy over?
Oh, I love that question. So our ideal, and I'm happy to send you our true spec on that, but our ideal is 2 passes with a steel trowel and leave out any curing agents. The curing agents stop the concrete from breathing, basically releasing the free water that's left during the concrete placement. So by not sealing it, it allows that to evaporate. The biggest challenge with concrete with epoxy and concrete is we need relative humidity of that concrete for the most part to be under 90% or less for successful bond. Now, when it's higher than that, that doesn't mean we can't coat it. We just have to start with what we call a moisture primer to that basically penetrates deeper into the capillaries of the concrete to block that what we call water or vapor transmission from coming up. So ideally 2 passes with the steel trowel is the way to go. Or if they are going with that bigger, the tools that truly hard trowel the concrete, we ask that they lay off of that a little bit and not hard trowel it because that just means it's going to take us more time to cut into that concrete because we're regrinding that surface to open up the porosity of it. Again, timing wise, remember we're at the tail end of construction. So concrete's poured, building's going to go up. You're going to do all of your other finishes and it's going to be us or it's going to be wall protection, then flooring, and then typically your kennel installation and your final IT and your punch list. So we're really at the tail end. We want that HVAC up and operational for 2 weeks prior to coming in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
One more.
Oh, I'd love it.
I had asked you if that soft paw option was proprietary to TWC, and somebody would like a little bit more information about what that means for that option. how does that work? Is that something that people could only get through TWC?
Yes, for that piece of it, yes. So, and probably explain who we are, it would be helpful. So, TWC, we're a national design build company, meaning we're full architectural, full construction, and we specialize in the animal care industry. On a side, we have our installation arm where we self-perform for TWC, but then we also perform for outside contractors and general contractors and direct to owners. So our process would be, yes, for that soft flooring, we would actually quote that for you and actually do the installation. It is our guys that do it. The struggle many times is, okay, we're based in Minnesota. I live in Indiana. Shantae lives in Texas. Our crews live all over the country. Sometimes going to Southern California for 1,000 square feet of soft floor might not make the most financial sense. But our crew of skilled carpenters, maybe we can look at ways to help you with other things. Maybe it's the kennel installation, or maybe it's the wall protection, or maybe it's hanging some casework. So we'll work with clients to try to figure out how to make this make sense, because we need to get there.
Awesome. And I did put the link to TWC in the chat. Looks like Shantae put another link just specific to flooring there. So if you're not in the chat, you can go check those out. I'm also going to post this on our pro webinar series index page with all the links that we talk about. Their contact info is in the chat as well. So if you have specific questions to, your own facility, your own situation, you can reach out to Jeff or Shantae directly. And I have only ever heard wonderful things said about Shantae. So
Thank you very much.
no, they're both wonderful. They're great to work with and obviously super knowledgeable. So I hope everyone takes a minute to reach out and, ask any questions that you might have. I think we're good. I don't see any other questions.
Thank you so much for having us on, Beth. This is fun.
Yeah, I love having webinars with you guys. And it looks like everyone else does too. That was a very popular topic.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
great.
All right. Well, I'll send the email or the recording out shortly. And thanks so much for coming to talk.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah,
Thanks,
good to
Beth.
see you.
Bye.
Bye.